this morning, what I want to talk about is what are the building blocks? What are the characteristics? What are the things that really lead to those deepest, richest, intimate relationships? And I'm not talking about just casual friendships. I'm not talking about relationships of convenience where once that thing is done, then the relationships go away. I'm not talking about surface. I'm talking about deep, abiding, rewarding, rich relationships, the viscera of what life is all about. And as we talk about those deep friendships and relationships, the fact is there are some factors in our culture that really work to go against forming those relationships, aren't there? I mean, you think about it, and did you know that the average American worker will stay at his job only 3.6 years? And that the average American will move 14 times in their life. And if you're in a neighborhood right now, Christy and I have been in the same neighborhood for 7+ years. Do you know that in 10 years in a neighborhood, half the neighborhood turns over? So there's an enormous amount of not staying in one place, and you can't have good, lasting, deep relationships if you're not staying put. The second thing is this: nobody has time. I mean, you look at what you have to get done in a day's time, right? I mean, from your kids going to school and activities and work and everything you have to do at night, okay? Who has time for deep, enriching relationships, right? So that really goes against and tears us apart away from those. The other thing is this: we have some attitudes in our relationship that are very American. And frankly, they're rooted in pride, aren't they? It's things like this. It's things like, I don't really need anybody else, or I can stand alone, or hey, you need to go and do it yourself. You need to look out for number one. I've got to promote me, and I've got to understand that everybody else is competing against me, and if I take care of somebody else, well, you know what? I might not win, or I might not get what I need. And so there's some very American, individualistic, isolationist attitudes that are rooted in pride. So this morning, I want to talk about what are the building blocks that really we need to pursue and not go with what's normal in our culture, but that we need to have those rich relationships, not the casual ones, not the simple ones, not the talk about the weather, stay on the surface, but the deep ones. What are those building blocks? And so let's talk about that. And Jesus, by the way, Jesus needed these just like anybody else. Do you know there were the crowds that Jesus interacted with, there were the 70, and then there was the 12 disciples that were right around him, were very close, and then there were 3, Peter, James, and John, and they were the closest. And many would argue that John was the closest of those 3. And so it's okay to have casual conversations and acquaintances and those kinds of things, but I'm talking about the deepest of the deep. What makes up those good relationships? So let's dive in and look at 5 key qualities that make those intimate, deep relationships this morning. So